Hi Year 6, this is the maths marking review for the lesson to convert miles to kilometres. Now your seesaw answer sheets might look slightly different, but the answers will be the same. Okay, first of all we had this page where you have to give your opinion about where you've seen miles and kilometres before and how we can measure them. Remember miles, we would write it down, for example, 5m, so 5 miles, and kilometres, if we have like 80 kilometres, we write km, the abbreviation for kilometres. Okay, so we started off with this. What do we notice? Well, what we notice is that we have 5 miles here. It's very close to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's very close to 8 kilometres, and the general rule of thumb is that 8 miles is the same as 8 kilometres. Even though it's not exactly the same, and it's not exactly 5 miles to 8 kilometres, but that's kind of the rule of thumb we do go on, that 5 miles is 8 kilometres. That'll be helpful for later on. Okay, so if we know that 5 miles is about 8 kilometres, I know then that 10 miles, because that's kind of doubled, will be 16 kilometres. So that if 10 miles is 16 kilometres, what's 15 miles? Well, I can just simply add these together to make 15 miles would be 24 kilometres. So 24 would go here. Okay, and then how many miles is 32 kilometres? Well, if I rub out this and this, I know that 10 miles is 16 kilometres. I can simply multiply this by 2 to make 32 kilometres is the same as 20 miles. Yeah, and that's kind of, on the next page was kind of like the answers, but a different way of perhaps working it out. Okay, so what happens if there is a decimal? Well, again, I'm going to go back to this fact that 5 miles equals 8 kilometres. Now, I'm actually going to start working out with this one, because I know that this has simply been divided by 10. So 8 kilometres down to 0.8 kilometres is being divided by 10. So I'm going to divide this by 10 to make 0.5 miles is the same as 0.8 kilometres. Then I'm going to go to this one here. Because again, from 5 miles to 2.5, it's like being divided by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4 kilometres. And again, we can kind of see that on our bar chart, that 1, 2.5 miles is the same as 1, 2, 3, 4 kilometres. Okay, then we have 7.5 miles. Well, I'm simply going to add up 2.5 miles and 5 miles to get 7.5 miles. So therefore, I add up this answer and this answer. 8 plus 4 equals 12 kilometres. Yep, and there's another way of working it out on page 7. Okay, so this is where you kind of started your real work for today. It says, tick the statements that are true, use the bar model to help you. So A, 5 miles is approximately 8 kilometres. Yep, well, we discussed that already on one of the first pages. That is true because we have 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is approximately, that's what it says, approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 kilometres. So that is definitely true. Okay, B. 1 mile is longer than 1 kilometre. Where 1 mile is definitely longer than 1 kilometre, yes. 2 kilometres is longer than 1 mile. 2 kilometres is definitely longer than 1 mile. D. 2 kilometres is longer than 2 miles. So 2 kilometres is longer than 2 miles? No way. So it's only about 1 and a little bit miles. It's 2 kilometres. Okay, this question here, my class struggled the most on. It says, fill in the missing numbers on the line. At the top we have miles, and below we have kilometres. Now, we know already that 5 miles is the same as 8 kilometres. Now, with that, we can answer the next bit. So, if we look at this one here, if 8 divided by 2 is 4 kilometres, so we need to do the same to the top. 5 divided by 2 is 2.5. So 2.5 miles is the same as 4 kilometres. We can do the same thing this way. 8 to 16 is like doubling it, multiplying it by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. So 10 miles is 16 kilometres. Oh, forget that line. I didn't realise my pen was on the paper. We can do the same for the top. 10 to 20, again, it's a bit like multiplying it by 2. So what we do at the top, we do at the bottom. 16 times 2 is 32. So 20 miles is 32 kilometres. Now, we kind of have this missing one where we don't have any other clues. But I know that from 0 to 5 is a bit like, if I added 5 from 0, just a bit like a number line here. Then we added number 5 to get to 10. And it's the same jump to here. So this would be 15. Okay, so 15 miles is how many kilometres? I know that 5 miles is 8 kilometres. I know that 10 miles is 16. So again, it's a bit like just adding them. 8 plus 16 is 24 kilometres. Okay, complete the conversions. Well, I know that 5 miles is 8 kilometres. That's been stated again and again. So this is a bit like timesing by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. 8 times 2 is 16. Now, what about 15 miles? Well, if these were added together, they would equal 15 miles. So I'm going to do the same here. 8 plus 16 equals 24 kilometres. Okay, so let's move on to B. How many miles is 16 kilometres? Well, that's actually kind of the same as this one here. So that's 10 miles is 16 kilometres. Then I notice that this has been divided by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. So 1 mile is 1.6 kilometres. And then I notice it's been divided by 2. So 0.5 miles equals 0.8 kilometres. Okay, similar thing here, but with perhaps trickier numbers. So let's write down so we know that 5 miles equals 8 kilometres. We can always kind of be referring back to that. Okay, where to start? So let's start with A. That's the most sensible thing to do. I have 160 kilometres. Now, if I multiply this by, I just should have left myself more room, by 20, I get 160 kilometres, because 8 times 20 equals 160. So I must do the same for the miles. 5 times 20, well, 5 times 10 is 50, double that, 100 miles equals 160 kilometers. So this is 100 miles equals 160 kilometers. B, 45 miles equals blank kilometers. Remember, guys, that to work it out from miles to kilometers, we can simply divide by 5 and then times by 8. Think about that for a second. So for kilometers to miles, we times by 5, then divide by 8. That's kind of a way of working it out also. So from miles to kilometers, I'm going to divide by 5. So 45 divided by 5 equals 9. Then times 9 by 8. 9 times 8 is 72 kilometers. Okay, C, 640 kilometers. How many miles? So this time I'm going to be looking over here, kilometers to miles. 640 times 5. Well, I know that's 640 times 10 would be 6,400. Then if I divide that by 2 to make it a bit like times 5, that'd be 3,200. So then I need to do 3,200 divided by 8. How many 8s in 3? 0. How many 8s in 32? 8, 16, 24, 32. So that would be, and 0, 0. So that would be 400 miles in 640 kilometers. Okay, let's go to D. 95 miles is how many kilometers? So again, from miles to kilometers, I need to divide by 5 and multiply by 8. So 95 divided by 5 equals 19. Then 19 times 8 will get me the answer. I know that 20 times 8 is 160. And then take away a lot of 19. Let me just work this out. 141 kilometers. Okay, 7.5 miles is how many kilometers? But actually, I'm going to go back to the first one we kind of learned today. 5 miles is 8 kilometers. And actually, I'm going to go quickly skip to F, because I know that this is a bit like dividing by 2. So for half the miles, oh no, it's not, because it's 2 miles, not 2.5 miles. Okay, ignore that bit for now. But I can work out F, because I know that 1 mile is the same as 1.6 kilometers, because that's on the previous page here. So if I multiply this by 2, I know that this is 3.2 kilometers. Okay, so we've got 7.5 miles is how many kilometers? Now, from miles to kilometers, again, I'm going to divide by 5. How many 5s in 7.5? That'll be 1.5, then times that by 8 to work out kilometers. 1.5 times 8 is, well, 1 times 8 is 8. Then 0.5 times 8 is 4. 8 plus 4 is 12 kilometers. Okay, moving on to number 5. If 5 miles is approximately 8 kilometers, then 10 miles is approximately 13 kilometers. Here is Whitney's working out. 5 miles equals 8 kilometers. And just added on 5 each side to make 10 miles is the same as 13 kilometers. What's her mistake? Well, her mistake is that, a bit like a fraction, you can't just add 5 to either side. She needed to multiply by 2. So 5 times 2 is 10. So it should be 8 times 2, it should be 16 kilometers. She added 5 each side when she should have multiplied it by 2. Okay, a marathon is approximately 26.2 miles. How far is this in kilometers? Now this one's quite tough. It says approximately. The first thing I'm going to do is change this into 25 miles. Now, like I said earlier, to work out miles to kilometers, we divide by 5 and then times the answer by 8. So 25 divided by 5 equals 5 times 8 equals 40 kilometers. Now, I took a mile off here, so I'm going to add a mile back on. I know that 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers. So I'm going to kind of add that onto here to get me an answer of 41.6 kilometers. And it says approximately, so that will do. But any answer between 40 kilometers and 44 kilometers, you'll be able to